All right. Good evening, everybody. I would like to call to order the Whatcom County Council meeting for April 20th, 2021. It is 6:02 p.m. and we are meeting virtually. First thing on our agenda is the roll call. Please call the roll.
Red Brown.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Tyler Bird.
Here.
Todd Donovan.
Here.
Ben Ellenboss.
Here.
Carol Frazee.
Here.
Kathy Kirschner. Here.
Thank you. Let the record show all council members are present. Next, we have our flag salute. Would you please display the flag and then join me in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, we have our county executives report. Do you have anything for us tonight, Executive Sadhu?
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Good, thank you. Well, good evening, Council and Whatcom County residents. I would like to share a couple of items of importance for our county with you tonight. The first one is National Volunteer Week. This is the National Volunteer Week, and let's take a moment to honor their commitment and dedication. Over the past year, hundreds of residents of Whatcom County have made invaluable and extraordinary contribution to our community's response to COVID crisis, selflessly sharing thousands of hours of their time, know-how, and resources. I want to let you know these efforts are well recognized and deeply appreciated. National Day of Appreciation for Administrative Professionals. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is the Administrative Professionals Appreciation Day, and I would like to give my appreciation to my staff as well as all county administrative professionals who keep us more efficient and on time. Vaccines. Approximately 50% of eligible individuals in Whatcom County have initiated the vaccination process, and 1/3 have completed it. Whatcom County is now one of the leaders in the state in share of people initiating the vaccine process. We are 8th out of all 39 counties, but we are second position out of counties with more than 200,000 population. And that's great news. If you are looking for an appointment, please know that Peace Health has a very efficient vaccination clinic at their St. Joe's campus. And as of 5 p.m. this evening, there were appointments available for every day this week, starting tomorrow. Additionally, our community vaccination clinic at Bellingham Technical College will have 1,680 first doses available at its clinic this weekend. Sign up begins tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Please check the county website for details. I would like to request that please encourage your family, your friends, your neighbors, co-workers to get vaccinated. It is important to keep up the momentum and use all the vaccine doses allocated to our county's providers. George Floyd and Racial Equity Commission. This week began with a lot of apprehension and anxiety in the air as we awaited the conclusion of trial on George Floyd's murder. Would justice be served? Or would the police killing of a person of color be treated with impunity again? I'm relieved that we will not be asked to ignore or forget what we all saw play out in the video, the cruel suffocation of a helpless Black man. However, I want to remind everyone that this rare guilty verdict for a wrongful act of a police officer does not undo past wrongs. I believe we all need to do more to prevent this from happening again and again. We must bring an end to the systemic inequalities where many of our citizens have to live in fear. In the current legislative session, several new laws are being voted upon on reforming methods of independent investigation into police use of force and increasing oversight and accountability for police officers. Today is a day for looking ahead, for thinking about what we can do in our own homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities to end racism. Everyone deserves to feel safe, to be treated with dignity, and be given the opportunity to succeed. And I ask you to join me in helping make that true for every resident in Whatcom County. This evening, Council will consider an interlocal agreement between City of Bellingham and Whatcom County to fund and support a public engagement process to create recommendations for a countywide racial equity commission. The idea to create this commission emerged as a result of a listening series organized by Mayor Fleetwood's office and my office last year. We heard community members asking for a mechanism to identify sources of racial and inequalities in Whatcom County and how and where racism is embedded in public policy, government institutions, and to make recommendations on the strategies to address them. Two community organizers, Christina Michelle Martins and Shu Ling Zhao, together with Chuckanut Health Foundation, have already done some preliminary work and designed a public engagement process. I would like to ask the County Council for your full support of our partnership with the City of Bellingham and other small cities over several months of this process. This shall lead to a proposal on the formation of the commission to be presented to the city and county councils for consideration by end of 2021. I look forward to this discussion. The state legislature session is coming to close in next few days, and we all look forward to the state budget and how it can help bolster Whatcom County economy over the next couple of years. Thank you, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Executive Sadhu. Any questions regarding his report? Okay, we'll move on. We have 4 sets of minutes to approve. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Donovan, a second by Byrd. Any corrections, deletions to those minutes? Seeing none, please call a roll.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Byrd,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Next is our public hearings. We have 3 public hearings tonight. The first one is AB 2021-171, ordinance granting Trans Mountain Pipeline Puget Sound LLC, a non-exclusive franchise for pipeline facilities. And before we get underway, can you please roll the video to tell folks out in the public how they can engage?
Welcome to the meeting. For instructions on how to join the meeting to speak, please visit whatcomcounty.us/join virtual council. Meeting information, including Zoom meeting link, phone number, webinar or meeting ID, and password, are available under the meeting date at the bottom of the page. Members of the public may join the meeting online or by phone. The meeting is broadcast live and recorded. All speakers will have 3 minutes. When you've joined the meeting, please virtually raise your hand to request to speak. To virtually raise your hand online, click the hand icon at the lower area of your screen. To virtually raise your hand by phone, dial *9 on your keypad. Council staff will call on you by the name listed, or if you're joining by phone, by the last 3 digits of the phone number from which you're calling. When called upon to speak, click the microphone icon to unmute, or if joining by phone, wait till you hear a message indicating the host unmuted your phone. Please first state your full name for the record. Staff will announce when your 3-minute speaking time is up. Camera sharing will not be offered at this meeting. Thank you for joining the meeting.
Okay, our first item, do we have a staff report on this?
This is Andrew Hester, Whatcom County Public Works. Not really much of a staff report. Basically, this is a renewal of an existing franchise with Trans Mountain Pipeline. It's gone through the review process with Public Works and the County Prosecutor's Office with a recommendation to approve. There are representatives from Trans Mountain Pipeline that are available for any questions, along with myself and Chris Quinn.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. With that, we will open the public hearing. This is on the Trans Mountain Pipeline non-exclusive franchise. So the public hearing is open. Please call the first speaker.
Again, to participate in this public hearing, to make a comment, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. The first speaker is Phil Sharp. Go ahead, please, Phil. I believe he's a representative agent of the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Phil Sharp of the law firm of Adelstein, Sharp and Circa at 400 North Commercial, Bellingham, Washington. Attending tonight's meeting with me are 2 representatives of Puget Sound's team, Maria Frankova, the senior land and right-of-way representative, and Dale McClary, the operations supervisor, who's headquartered out at its Laurel Station on the Smith Road. At this time, I'd request that the letter which I submitted to Chair Buchanan and copied to all members of the council dated April 13, 2021 be made a part of the record. I won't repeat anything that's in there other than to point out that the comprehensive safety, spill prevention, and emergency response plans, which I highlighted and which Trans Mountain has in place, are constantly in the process of being refined, particularly as technology advances and as best practices evolve. Our job tonight really is to try and answer any questions that you have. I've received 2 inquiries, directly or indirectly, from council members. One dealing with spills. In the last 25 years, there's been 1 spill of 645 gallons of, or 645 barrels of oil. Took place in October of 2000 when the line was being restarted after being shut down for routine maintenance. Through human error, a vent was left open, and when the line was reflooded, oil flowed back onto Trans Mountain's property. That oil was contained entirely on Trans Mountain's site. It was removed within really less than a day, and the property was remediated. There have been no other spills since that time. The other inquiry I received concerned liability protection for the county and insurance coverage. As you know, Section 15 of this agreement requires that Trans Mountain indemnify and hold the county harmless from any liability arising out of the presence or operation of the pipeline, except damage or claims arising out of actions of the county. And that includes both personal property, personal injury, and environmental indemnification. In addition, the agreement contains an obligation on the part of Trans Mountain to provide $100 million in liability and pollution liability insurance, naming the county as an additional insured. That number was arrived at by the Municipal Research and Service Center, and it was recently endorsed in October of 2019 by the Pipeline Safety Trust as being quite adequate, and they complimented the city for in maintaining that high standard. With that, Ms. Frankova and Mr. McClary and I are available to answer questions.
Okay, can you call our next speaker?
The next speaker is Tom Doran. Go ahead, Tom. Please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Tom Doran, and I'm a local citizen. I live here. I moved here from California. I love this place. I moved here for the community. I really value the people that live here, and I love just how abundant it is here. And I want to basically move to ask the council and everyone who lives here to do everything you can to open back up, remove the mandates of mask wearing. The masks have not been proven through any scientific form to actually promote health. Rebreathing your own CO2 and carbon dioxide does not increase your body's ability to provide an immune response.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you. This is a specific public hearing on a pipeline exclusive.
Oh, regarding the pipeline? I'm sorry. I'll rescind my comment.
And we'll call you back when we get to open comment, Tom.
Thanks. Sorry, I was just really excited. Bye.
Okay.
If anyone else would like to speak during this public hearing on the Trans Mountain franchise, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. There are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. We will close the public hearing. And council, what are your wishes?
Move approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Donovan.
I brought this up before with other franchise agreements similar, related to this. There are very few things we just do without a committee discussion. So, and I'll ask this again, like, I don't think we had this in a committee.
This is Dana.
Yeah.
With franchises, normally the course of action is to go to public hearing, and then if the council has questions that they want to get answered that can't get answered on the evening of the hearing, then they hold it in committee 2 weeks later.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on water system franchise agreements over the years that I've been on council, but this is not about me being opposed to it. It's just it's a procedural thing. I brought it before. I bring it up again, that I don't understand why they're just scheduled for the evening hearings rather than some committee discussion.
Mr. Quinn, did you want to address that?
Yeah, I thought maybe I could advise that Christopher Quinn, Whatcom County Prosecutor's Office. I actually looked into that issue because I remember Mr. Donovan raising it when we had that Linden franchise agreement that was discussed. And I can specifically advise the council that the code provides, if you would like to refer such a franchise agreement to council prior to a public hearing, that can be done so at the time of introduction. So I just bring that to your attention. If procedurally you'd like to go that route.
Councilmember Frazee? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
We're beyond introduction. This is a public hearing. So
correct.
So correct. This was an introduction item in our introduction agenda at some point 2 weeks ago.
Correct. I think it was a little bit more than 2 weeks ago. Might have been the.
Councilmember Frazee?
So is there something we need to do to change where, or can we automatically say it'll come before us at time of introduction? Because I think a lot of us, like, we look over it when it's introduced, but then when it comes before us this last day, I know I asked all my questions today. Yes, so from now on, do we need to make a motion or after this or at the end of the day, at the end of the evening, to say that we want them at the time of introduction, we want them to come into committee?
Dana, is that something that we can make as a normal process for us?
Yes, you could do that.
Do we need to have a motion, or can you just do that?
We can just do that. Council staff can take care of that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Byrd and then Councilmember Ellenboss.
Yeah, thanks. Todd's right. We did spend a bit of time on the water thing. We also spent a little bit of time on the towers for cell phones and Verizon's agreement as well. With that said, personally, I don't know that I'm in favor of it automatically going to committee meetings, because they're traditionally renewals fairly generic in the amount of time that we spend on them. Knowing that Dana and staff have made it over the years very well communicated that anything that gets introduced, upon introduction, it's up to the council to review those items and tell them at that point what we should be doing with them. So that's our opportunity to say, like, hey, that one we have more questions about, we want it in committee, or let it go through. But recalling last year and how packed committee meetings were, I mean, it's a little different this year, but having things automatically fill in the committee meetings, I'd rather us just pay attention to what is in introduction and call them out then and follow kind of the process that's in place today.
Councilmember Ellenboss.
Yeah, maybe I'm more comfortable with this agreement because I've worked with folks from Trans Mountain for a few decades, and I know what a wonderful group of professionals they are. But I just want to point out that they are on the line to answer any questions if we have some now.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Other discussion on the motion, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying I know I'm not going to win my point, but I want this on the record. I think we and the state governments and other governments should be requiring unlimited liability for spills and damages, because to the degree that we don't have that, the county and our citizens are at risk of picking up, effectively acting as secondary insurance providers for any industry that could have a significant environmental impact.
Other discussion on the motion? Councilmember Frazee?
Yes, I know that these franchise agreements do look generic, but I would like, I know we have time and they come before us, but if we could have them in committee, that would be great. And with that, I know it was in 2000, but when I asked the question today about, were there any spills? And in 2000, there was the 645 barrels, and that equals, I think, 27,000 gallons. So that's where I want to make sure. I know it was contained and groundwater wasn't affected with 27,000 gallons. Yeah, I just think the franchises, we do kind of just glance over them when we look at them. But I think if we had more time in our committees that we had to read beforehand and then it came before the full council, I would, that would be helpful for me. And I think as we go forward, spending more time really looking at the agreements would be helpful for all of us and the community.
Mr. Donovan.
I'm going to awkwardly speak against the motion, and it has nothing to do with this franchise agreement, which I'll probably support. And I'll take responsibility for not picking out an introduction item and assigning it to a committee, which we actually kind of, we do that sometimes, we don't do that sometimes, because sometimes it's automatic, and we expect the clerk to do that. But I mean, I would hope, just for the sake of learning and for more public comment, that we had an opportunity in a committee to discuss it. So that, and just these generally, not just one in particular. There's nothing about this agreement in particular. So if the motion passes, it passes. If it doesn't pass, then I'd say, you know, we drop it to a committee. We get an ability to have a hearing and have the kind of education for council members that we have in our committee processes that is more difficult to do in the evening.
Councilmember Byrd?
Todd, I totally agree with you on that. So, and if you would like, I'd be supportive of pulling this and putting it into a committee for further discussion at our next meeting. I wasn't trying, I didn't mean to infer that we shouldn't discuss this specific item. I just meant overall. And so I made the same argument about several others in the past. So I totally agree. And I love the idea of like getting into some of these things and understanding them more. I just think that not necessarily on every single one. We've gone through that process fairly extensively with water. At this point, understanding that, I don't need to have every water one come forward, knowing that we really can't do much with them, right? So that's more what I was referring to as overall process. But would it be a preference then to have this in the committee in 2 weeks for further discussion, or I know that they're on tonight and available for questions.
There's one way to find out. Make a motion to hold and place in committee. And
well, I wonder, before I do that, like, I'd hate to do that and only have one question, right?
Oh yeah.
So if there's a bunch of stuff that people want to discuss, then I think it's worthwhile. But if not, then I wouldn't. So I'll leave it to the council to see if there is kind of an in-depth conversation that needs to take place here.
I think Mr. Ellenboss was next, and then Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi is doing its thing again. We have had presentations with the Pipeline Safety Trust, and I think they've given us some pretty good in-depth knowledge and background on the pipelines that run through our county. And so I don't know, I guess that's also why I feel fairly good about renewing this contract in this moment. So I think we can, I'm not withdrawing my motion.
Okay, other discussion, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, and I support moving ahead with the franchise agreement. The infrastructure's there, they've been there for 25 years. My only issue is the insurance issue, and I already don't think I'm going to win that one, so I just move forward with it.
Mr. Donovan?
I'm not sure Mr. Brown will or not win that one, but then this is not about this particular proposal, but like, you know, we have franchise agreements for cable TV, for water, for towers, for pipelines, other things. And then some of those, you know, we've maybe slowed things down a bit, but we could have a committee hearing and kind of get a sense of what our limits are or opportunities are in franchise agreements. And it's not like Mr. Burr said, it's not like doing that for every single one, but I don't think we've done that on pipeline ones. So so yeah, again, I just want to, it's not this particular agreement. I think it'd be beneficial to have a discussion of what the limits and potentials are for the council when it comes to this sort of a franchise agreement. And I understand it's very limited what our opportunities might be, but that's, I don't want to be doing all of these all of the time in every committee. I just think we haven't had that. We've done some other areas for franchises, but I don't think we've done pipelines.
Councilmember Frazee?
And I appreciate the letter that Trans Mountain Pipeline sent to us with all of the safety guardrails they've put in place. And I will vote for this, but like with some of the franchises coming forward, you know, I keep thinking back to that internet one or that Comcast one, and we could really make some changes for the community if we really dug deep into those. But I will be voting yes for this.
Yeah, I'll join you on that line of thinking, Councilmember Frazee. I'll vote yes, but I will look carefully at when they come in for introduction, at least to see if we think they need to go to committee. Councilmember Byrd.
This one specifically is 25 years. I was double checking, but I did find that. Does anyone know how many of these we have? Like water, we have hundreds, right? The cable, we have a couple, but I'm curious, like how many pipeline specific ones do we have? Do we know?
Mr. Ellenboss, do you have that answer?
Well, I have an educated guess. Trans Mountain would be I believe our only pipeline that's transporting crude oil. And then we also have the Olympic pipeline, which is moving refined products. And then I think there's a few natural gas pipelines, but there's one fairly large one that runs, I think it comes across somewhere around Sumas and cuts towards the Cherry Point industrial area.
Thank you, Ben.
Other discussion on the motion to approve?
Barry, this is Dana. I just want to remind the council that this is a substitute version of the ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Quinn, did you have something?
I just wanted to address that. The substitution, what we did is add additional insurance. So there is business automobile insurance that Trans Mountain is now required to carry in addition to the other insurance that we've been discussing here. So we've just added a requirement.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote on this.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Byrd,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Abstain.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Donovan abstaining. Our second public hearing is an ordinance establishing a speed limit on North Shore Road. Is there any introduction to this from staff? Guess that's a no. Okay. We will. Oh, there they come. They come rolling in all at once. Okay, Mr. Rani, you want to take it?
Sure. So the first speed limit ordinance is a gap in the system that was brought to our attention by the Sheriff's Department, kind of at the dead end, at the far end of the North Shore there. And it's a small section that just goes around, and it cleans up and makes everything consistent out there.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will open the public hearing for the speed limit, establishing a speed limit on a section of North Shore Road. So let's open the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
If anyone would like to speak on this public hearing, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing and we will turn it back to council. Councilmember Byrd.
I'll move approval to start. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, one second.
Was it Ronnie that was on or John? I'm curious, the cleaning up the speed limit at the end. The way the document was written, establishing a speed limit, and then it doesn't refer to any past speed limit. So it almost made me think that there isn't a speed limit, but I was almost positive that there was. So, yeah.
There was a speed limit. This is just making it consistent for the entire length of North Shore Road.
Okay, so it changes at that, and what, it went down to 35 or?
It went up to 35.
Oh, it moved up. Okay.
For a small section.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Brad Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Byrd,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Next is AB 2021-195, ordinance establishing a speed limit on several roads in the Weiser Lake area. You want to fill us in on that one, Mr. Durrani?
Certainly. These are two residential neighborhood roads that never got established at a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. So through the residential area, it's currently 35 miles an hour. This will reduce that to increase safety through residential neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
If anyone would like to speak during this public hearing, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 on your keypad if you're joining by phone. There are no hands raised.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. Council, what are your wishes?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Okay, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Byrd,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Brad Brown,
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. The next public hearing is AB 2021-230, an ordinance imposing an interim moratorium on the acceptance and processing of permit applications for new or expanded recreational cannabis growing and/or processing facilities which are proposed to operate outdoors or in greenhouses. So, Mr. Personius?
Hi, Council. Yeah, this is a amendment, revised moratorium that you passed, I think, at your last meeting. It's proposed by staff to specifically clarify the distinction between indoor and outdoor production of marijuana. The revised moratorium would apply to all new or expanded marijuana production and or processing facilities operating outdoors and within all types of greenhouses, both rigid walled and non-rigid walled. And the distinction there is important because some greenhouses that are rigid walled are considered to be indoor grows, and non-rigid walled or hoop houses are considered outdoor grows. Either one could have odor issues. And so I think the public comments you heard wanted to kind of make that clarification, and this revision to the moratorium would do that.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Please call the first speaker.
The first speaker is caller with the phone number beginning in 360 and ending in 199. Go ahead, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. My name is Rainbow Medicine Walker. I live in Kendall. Over 40 people in my community support this protective interim moratorium. If I owned a small-scale cannabis business, then I would want codes in place to prevent large-scale industrial operations from moving into my area and pushing me out. Unbridled industry leads to boom-bust scenarios, and when the bust hits the fan, it is usually the small local businesses left holding the bag. We can witness this happening right now in Canada. As Jefferies analyst Owen Bennett has said, the Canadian cannabis industry should brace for more facility closures, bankruptcies, and consolidation amid a worsening oversupply situation. Marijuana Business Daily says there has already been an oversupply of cannabis product in Washington state. This has created economic hardship for the small operators. With federal legalization, this problem will likely get worse as bigger investors enter the scene. There are a lot of existing cannabis operations here in Whatcom County. So based on current oversupply problems and predicted future oversupply problems, why would our local operators want to leave the door wide open for the big boys to move right on in, produce even more product, and potentially damage our already established businesses? Seems to me we should be able to figure out how to create codes that protect the quality of life in our established communities and are also protective of existing small-scale, self-regulating cannabis operations who control their odor and light pollution. When I say small-scale operations, I am referring to Tier 2 and smaller. Many counties have either disallowed Tier 3 and larger operations completely, or they are placed only in industrial zones because they create so many problems for local residents. For small-scale, fully compliant operations that do not disturb the neighbors, great. You are not the problem. But what are we to do about the non-self-regulating operations that create widespread distress? The county does not have the infrastructure to constantly monitor and effectively enforce these out-of-compliance operations. This is why we need this temporary moratorium, so we have time to review and resolve these problems before they get even bigger. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mark Ambler. Go ahead, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm Mark Ambler. I am a small cannabis producer in Whatcom County, in Bellingham to be specific. And yeah, the big guys, they could have came in anytime they wanted to in the last 3 years. They never have. But since our last meeting, I have never, I went out and started figuring out, okay, what if there was an odor? How do you report it? So I verified the Northwest Clean Air Agency has a functioning system where you can tell them there's an odor, and then they'll call you if you want. You can say, call me, and then they'll discuss the details of the current odor law and enforcement of it, because they're the ones that legislature gave the authority to deal with odors. And I also recommended that they add an odor complement option, because that's not in there. So you're only collecting all the complaints. Current sections of the Whatcom County Code require lights to be shielded and faced away from residential houses. I recommended the code language. I recommend currently the code language be added saying you can't face lights towards a farm as well, because that's a problem. We need a code for mature male cannabis plants, because the cheapest seeds out there are not feminized, and then a single farm could destroy a city's cannabis operation by growing mature male cannabis plants. And also, since the last meeting, I got an updated list of cannabis licensees as of April 15th. And I shared it with the county, with Mark. Your moratorium states that Whatcom only knows of 30, but I know the list has over like 110 licenses in Whatcom County. The county moratorium cites RCW 3678-390 for authority, which is the Growth Management Act, or GMA. Well, section 3678-904 of the GMA says, if any part of this act is found to be in conflict with federal requirements that are a prescribed condition of the allocation of federal funds to the state, the conflicting part of this act is inoperative. So according to LCB, recreational cannabis is in conflict with federal requirements for PPP grants. Whatcom County cannabis licensees received notice from them last Friday that any federal funds we brought into the state from our cannabis operations, including PPP grants, need to be returned immediately. So including recreational cannabis, any part of the GMA, including a moratorium, it renders that action inoperative. So I think, we should continue this process in an open public manner like this with all the stakeholders, but without the moratorium, because it's kind of like bringing everybody together under a conflict. So, and I'd also like to invite the public to the Western Washington University Cannabis Career Summit on May 6th. It's free and you guys can sign up at cannabiscareersummit.com. All right, thanks. Bye.
If anyone else would like to speak on this public hearing, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon on your screen or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. There are no other hands raised at this time.
I'll move approval.
There's one more hand up.
A hand just went up.
Yeah, go ahead and call them in.
Go ahead, Holly. Please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, for the record, my name is Holly Kuhn, and I also am a resident of Kendall. And I won't take much time because you've heard my thoughts on all of these subjects before, but I am here tonight just to thank the council again for being responsive. And I really hope that you adopt this amended moratorium just for clarity's sake. And again, thank you again for your responsiveness.
Are there any more speakers?
If anyone else would like to speak on this public hearing, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon on your screen or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. The next speaker is listed as Siwar. Please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Carson Warner. I live on Wheeler Road in the Kendall area. And I didn't get the chance to attend the last meeting, but I just wanted to voice my support for the moratorium. I do appreciate Mr. Ambler's comments a moment ago. However, I do feel that originally this issue came to light because of the facility on Mount Baker Highway specifically. And that's my concern. I don't have a concern about the general growing operations in the county because I don't know enough to chime in on that. But I am aware of the past digressions of the company that's functioning across the highway from us. And that concerns me enough to say that the moratorium should be kept in place in order to postpone any further development of that operation while the county reviews the process further and makes a decision on how to go forward. Again, I don't protest to know the greater issues at hand here in terms of the county. I just recognize what's going on across the way, and from what I understand, maybe it needs to be checked a little bit. Specifically on the environmental side is my main concern. But I'd just like to voice my support and thank the council for taking the time to do this process.
If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. There are no other hands raised.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. And council, what are your wishes?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Councilmember Kirschner.
Thank you. I just wanted another shot at a clarification as to the differences between the moratorium we passed 2 weeks ago and this one. I can tell you my understanding is that we are including all greenhouses, rigid and non-rigid, in an outdoor designation. Is that pretty much the gist of it? I guess, Mark, if you're still on, yeah, you're still here.
Looks like Ms. Frakes is unmuting.
Well,
Yes.
Okay.
yes is the answer.
Okay. Good. I was thinking I had it down, but then I thought I better check. Thanks.
Mr. Ellenboss?
Yeah, I think Mr. Ambler was right on when he said, hey, we can continue to work on these things if we have a concern. We don't need a moratorium. And I think he's right on with that. I think the biggest issue for these pot farmers, if there is any oversupply, it would not be from the people who are licensed. It's probably coming from the people who are out competing them by being on the black market, where the folks who are buying it don't have to pay the taxes and they don't have to abide by any regulations. But again, we've said in this state that we're not real interested in prosecuting people for drug crimes. So I don't think the sheriff's that interested in going after those people. So I think we're barking up the wrong tree if we're trying to even the playing field and fix things that are in inequities. But like Councilmember Brown acknowledged earlier, he knows when he's beat. So we'll just go on and I'll vote no and I'll be the only one.
Other Mr. Brown and then Ms. Kirschner?
Yeah, I just want to again say to the industry, this is a problem that can be resolved if you start policing yourself better and living up to the expectations that were in place at the time the permits were issued. This is fundamentally about people not addressing the conditions of the permits adequately. And the route to resolving this from an industry perspective is ensuring that everybody in this industry abides by the conditions that were in place at the time they applied for their permits.
Councilmember Kirschner?
Yeah, I just have to respond to that a little bit. I don't think it's fair to put all of the onus on the industry to police themselves, because what are the people who are following the rules supposed to do about the rule breakers? Go out there and take care of business? I don't think we're advocating that. That's really our job, is to make sure that the codes we write are clear and enforceable. And I'm looking, I looked through this quite a bit since 2 weeks ago when we passed it. And it seems to me that we really have an enforcement issue more than we have necessarily a code issue. I looked for all of the complaints that we've received in the email for the last 3 or 4 months, and all of them are addressed in our code already. So it seems like we need to have a better way to enforce what the code is. I supported the moratorium 2 weeks ago. I'm going to support this. But again, I'll say I'm supporting it for 1 6-month term, less if planning can get it together quicker than that. And with the intent that the code is written so that it's clear and enforceable, and we can hopefully alleviate some of the problems that have been brought to our attention about the current code.
Councilmember Byrd.
Thank you. Kathy, I didn't hear what they had said to your question earlier. Hopefully I don't ask
It
something.
said yes.
Okay. I didn't even catch the question. My Zoom crashed, but hopefully I don't, ask the same thing. Kathy, I think you have an excellent point about that. And I 100% agree with you. I think it largely is an enforcement problem. Looking at this, if we're having a problem enforcing issues with the number that we have right now, that's where I'm supportive of the moratorium. I don't necessarily want to to add more to that if we can't already deal with what we're working with. So I'd like to iron out the issues and that we're dealing with before it grows and gets worse and gets to a point where we can't personally. But Mark, reading the structure of the kind of updated language that's in there, I guess to take what Kathy was saying to some extent, like rigid structure, when I read that, I think of a lot of different things. And so when I'm looking at some of the greenhouse examples online of greenhouses with retractable roofs, most of them that I see, I would still consider a rigid structure. I mean, a lot of them are from what I can tell, and I'm not a carpenter, but I mean, they look like they're built with steel studs and glass in glass frames, right? And the glass will essentially swivel up and open, so the whole roof basically opens up just like any window would, but it's like just littered with window panels down it. So to me, that seems like it would be a rigid structure, but it also doesn't solve the problem of just like opening a roof off and having absolutely no control over the smell. So what's the definition of that, or how does that solve this problem, I guess, or this definition solve that problem?
So, yeah, the first moratorium was, and the first ask from the public was strictly for outdoor, because we can't control odor. There's no requirements in the code for odors for outdoor grows, right? Yeah, that's just not something that is in state law or in our law, in our codes that we can control, other than it can't constitute a nuisance, and that's an undefined term. And so that's the problem. And whether it is a hoop house that's an outdoor greenhouse, or it's an indoor facility that's a rigid walled greenhouse, the roofs, as you said, the roof's still open, the sides may open, the windows may open. You've got the same issue about venting of odors. And so there are some things that there's some technology, there are some things that some communities are looking at, or some operators that are trying to catch up to this issue, that we can look at as a part of the legislative update process when we go through that.
So in that case, can we write into the code where you can't build essentially a greenhouse that would allow a roof to open? Is that how we solve for that problem in the long run potentially, or?
That's an option. Another option would be just to look at the technologies that are available, and the venting and the filtration technologies that are out there that may allow a pre-filtering of that air before you open the roofs or you open those louvered panels. There's a variety of different ways to do it. Some counties have simply banned outdoor grows, including those kinds of facilities, and require grows to only occur indoor. And we have a lot of those. We have a lot of indoor grows that are totally within an enclosed building. And so those plants are all grown with artificial lighting systems, and they all have required carbon filtration systems for the odor control measures, and we don't get any complaints about those facilities. So there are ways to.
I guess that's kind of where some of what I've heard comes into play, because it's a matter of, hey, you have an indoor facility that is a rigid structure, it's a glass and steel greenhouse, and yet it's cheaper in the summer when it gets super hot to open up window panels or retract a roof than to process it through a venting system, and at the end of the day. So in this case, if someone came in and applied for an indoor greenhouse that was going to be one of these steel and glass ones, but the roof would retract, would that fall within the moratorium that we're passing?
Yes.
Okay. I know this is a little outside of the norm for us lately, although we used to do it a bit. Mr. Ambler has his hand raised, and I'm thinking he might have a response to that question as well. I'd be curious to hear what it was, if the council would allow him to add it, if it's specific to that.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, so Mr. Pisani, just to confirm, so we have people who are running indoor grow operations who are dealing with the light emissions and the odor emissions, and they're able to do so in a way that allows them to function as an ongoing business, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So the rules are not so onerous that a person cannot operate this business or make money at it, even under all the restrictions, is what it sounds like.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Kirschner.
Mark, I wanted to ask if consideration is being given to banning outdoor grows in Whatcom County through this review process. Is that what we're going to be looking at?
So that's a great question. We haven't started that process yet. If you pass this amended moratorium, then we would sort of want to come back and engage with the council first on, give you some policy options, let you know what other communities are doing, how they're dealing with these issues of odors and of lights and outdoor and indoor grows, and have a conversation with you guys on where you're comfortable with going. Certainly been lots of suggestions from the public about options, and we can present all those to you guys. It could be zoning options, it could be increasing setback options, it could be banning outdoor grows, it could be increasing the odor control requirements or technology requirements, which obviously has a cost associated with it. There's a lot of different options, and so the idea is that we would have that conversation with you guys to get some direction from you before we went back to and
Would
develop.
the people that are currently participating in outdoor grows and doing it legally and within the parameters, would they be grandfathered in? Would their outdoor grow if I'm just going to take it to the worst case scenario, I guess, and that is if there was a ban enacted, would the people like Mark Ambler, for instance, be grandfathered in, or would he be out of business if he's an outdoor grower?
So first of all, I believe Mr. Ambler's operation is in the city of Bellingham, so he's not subject to these regulations. He may have an interest in property outside the city and the county, but as I understand it, he grows in Bellingham. So yeah, there are a lot of options available.
Would somebody that's in the county doing outdoor bans,
Yes.
outdoor grows, be banned?
No, they would if the council ultimately adopted regulations that banned, in that example, outdoor grows in the future, then they would be considered legal non-conforming uses and allowed to continue to operate.
Since they're doing it now.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Ben's got his hand up.
Councilmember Ellenboss, I muted myself, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So Mark, here we are talking about legal non-conforming uses. So they're a fine and dandy up until they need to get a permit for something else, and then they wouldn't be able to. Isn't that usually how it goes, Mark?
Ben, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
I was just saying legal non-conforming sounds fine for now until a few years down the road when they need to get a permit for something else, but they can't because their property's non-conforming, or is that not going to create any issues for any other things they'd like to do, like put a laundry room on the back side of their house?
Well, it would depend on what they wanted to do. Yeah, I mean, the other regulations are still in place, right? So if they wanted to expand, they're subject to expansion regulations and limitations and lot coverage and zoning and critical areas and stormwater and all of that stuff. So.
Any further questions, comments?
Barry, this is Dana again. Just a reminder that this also is a substitute version. Just adding that 6-month language that the interim will expire in 6 months.
Okay, thanks, Dana.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no further comments, we will take a vote.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Van Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
No.
Rudd Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes. That passes 5-2. Now we'll move into our open session. During the open session, members of the public may speak to the council on issues that are not scheduled for a public hearing. So those things that we just discussed in our public hearings are not subject to the open session. So Kathy, can you play the video again to show how to join the meeting?
Welcome to the meeting. For instructions on how to join the meeting to speak, please visit whatcomcounty.us/join-virtual-council. Meeting information, including Zoom meeting link, phone number, webinar or meeting ID, and password, are available under the meeting date at the bottom of the page. Members of the public may join the meeting online or by phone. The meeting is broadcast live and recorded. All speakers will have 3 minutes. When you've joined the meeting, please virtually raise your hand to request to speak. To virtually raise your hand online, click the hand icon at the lower area of your screen. To virtually raise your hand by phone, dial *9 on your keypad. Council staff will call on you by the name listed, or if you're joining by phone, by the last 3 digits of the phone number from which you're calling. When called upon to speak, click the microphone icon to unmute, or if joining by phone, wait till you hear a message indicating the host unmuted your phone. Please first state your full name for the record. Staff will announce when your 3-minute speaking time is up. Camera sharing will not be offered at this meeting. Thank you for joining the meeting.
Okay, with that, we will open the open session to the public, and please call the first speaker.
The first speaker is Mark Ambler, and then we'll go to Marcus D. and Tom Doran. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, can you hear me?
Just to note, this cannot be on the last item that we spoke on.
Roger.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I just wanted to speak about the history of the cannabis code in Whatcom County. Back in the day, there was RCW 6951A 140, and that gave explicit authorization for counties to make codes for medical marijuana. So that's when you guys made your codes, and then had a second revised code. And then after that, the legislature rescinded RCW 6951A 140, and they tried to pass some language in that same RCW 6951A that said all counties need to enact a vote in order to place a ban on cannabis. So they put that in that bill in 2015, but that was revised. It didn't make it to the end of the bill. So they're state actors. Like, I live here, I'm a Whatcom County resident. There are state entities that don't want you guys to write codes on a local basis. And that became evident in that legislature. And then just moving on through time, like, WAC 31455 was developed and has a really long, descriptive, lots of rules for, that's where all our rules are for cannabis licensees. And when you guys look at your codes, half of them like reference those rules. That's kind of the history. You guys weren't really sure where to go, so half of them reference those rules. So you're kind of like using historical stuff. You kind of see it in your motions. Like you have like tons of knowns, like known data. You're trying to prove that you're trying to prove that this is okay for you to do it. But I would say the state is against you on this, and the feds are against you on this. And the public, 56% of Whatcom County voters voted for cannabis. So the public's against you on this. So, you know, and so the history brings us there to today, where you guys are now faced with allowing CBD farmers into your county, and CBD farms are not restricted by size. So I could easily, if I won a contract, like right now Nestle is trying to get a contract for a CBD grower for their dog food line. So that's going to be like more than 100 acres. And, you know, if one of those businesses goes in Whatcom County and you guys aren't ready for it, and you just ban the little stinky businesses that are like a couple thousand square feet and 100 acres goes in, it's going to be bad looking. So thanks.
The next speaker is Marcus D. Go ahead, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, esteemed council. This is Marcus D. I sit on the homeless strategies work group as the homeless advocate there. Also, I'm a member of SOS, Serenity Outreach Services in Bellingham. We intend to be part of the answer and are already a big part of the answer, as many of you know. I'd like to speak a little bit about some of the happenings going on in the homeless strategies work group. That in that work group, of course, it's our job to try to come up with advice for this council to be able to follow. I want you to know that we've had some close votes and some stuff coming up right now. But one of the largest things that we're dealing with that still we haven't come to a conclusion on, but you should be aware of, is the sweeps in Bellingham. Of course, I can tell you that only the last sweep at Sunset Pond last Wednesday was the only one that was in compliance with BPD policy since January. Everything else was just done under executive order, and it was all rather arbitrary and not a lot of warning and a lot of sometimes surprise sweeps. So it was very disturbing, very disruptive. We're finding that there's police officers waiting around every corner whenever they do a sweep. So so you can find yourself being swept from location to location in a single day. Very traumatic stuff during an emergency pandemic. We've also discovered, it's been disclosed that there are numbers that we're all seeking, that the county is seeking. I know that that base camp has a banned list, and these are numbers of people who cannot attend and are not allowed into base camp. Yet the very numbers that are of available beds that are used at base camp, the numbers of available beds are what we use, what BPD uses and what the COB uses as a metric to decide whether or not they can sweep. I mean, it's weird voodoo math, really. I mean, there could be 5 or 10 beds available, but it would be all the excuse you need to go sweep 30 or 40 people. And obviously all 30 or 40 people can't go into those 10 beds, when in fact, most of them that we're looking at right now are not allowed at base camp or won't go for various reasons. You can't ask people to go to places where they've been victimized, and I'm not accusing base camp of anything. I'm just saying that things happen and people don't want to be there. Sometimes you find your abuser is actually sheltering there, and you're not going to shelter in the same location as your abuser. That's an unacceptable shelter. In the face of this, we still have Martin versus Boise, which indicates that if you don't have an acceptable shelter, you have the right to shelter right where you are. That's the opposite of what the city is doing right now. They're running advocates and campers ragged. I know that I've heard that we had another death today. I'm really sorry to hear this, but I need you as the health board to really pay attention and consider a moratorium on the sweeps. Just recommending a moratorium. You can move to do that until we get these metrics together. We're working on it.
The next speaker is Tom Doran. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, council. My name is Tom Doran. Thank you for receiving my comment. I am looking to request your assistance in returning to normal, even though we have been threatened that we're not going to be able to return to normal. What I would like to bring awareness to is we have been living in a society that has been plagued by consistent false flag events that derive the outcome that the narrator wishes to create. And as an example, going back to September 11th, 2001, the true events that occurred on the Twin Tower destruction were never disclosed. Building 7 collapsed without explanation. I invite you to really ask yourself if you know what happened, and if you don't, to look into it. That brings to light the current situation is the pandemic, or as many people call it, the plandemic. As it was written in 2010, the Rockefeller Future Scenarios document outlines the entire pandemic. I'm not sure if they lined out that specific date, but either way, it brings to light a lot of evidence that the entire pandemic was pre-planned, preeminently planned, as well as the push toward a vaccine passport. And that is coming from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And that is written, you can find that. So I'm requesting that we return to normal, because we need to protect the sovereignty of our citizens in our daily experience and life. And we need to put a large degree of understanding toward how a healthy immune system functions. Rebreathing your own carbon dioxide is no way, shape, or form a healthy process or aspect. The children wearing masks at the schools is outrageous. That is a crime against humanity. And if you are complicit with allowing children to wear masks, that is a crime against humanity. There is no real health benefit from wearing a mask for extended periods of time. The levels of CO2 inside the masks are beyond unhealthy, and they need to be investigated. The vaccines also may have adverse health effects. The Bill Gates influence into the medical industry is humongous, and he's given TED Talks where he literally says that we can reduce the population of the planet by 10 to 15% if we do a great job with vaccines and healthcare. What does that tell you? It sure tells me that I shouldn't take that vaccine, and there's no way you're going to get me to put a vaccine passport together for myself to live my own life. And I think that everybody should really wake up, and we all need to wake up. Thank you.
The next speaker is Nancy Bergman, followed by Misty Flowers. Go ahead, Nancy. Please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, my name is Nancy Bergman. I'm a resident of Whatcom County. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about the experimental COVID vaccine and the history of previous attempts at coronavirus vaccine trials. These previous attempts to create a corona vaccine never made it out of the animal trials. All seemed well for a while until the animals were exposed to the wild coronavirus. At that point, autoimmune response was created and the animals became very sick and most of them died. The experimental COVID-19 vaccine is the most rushed vaccine in history. Clinical trials have only lasted a matter of months, which means the full scope of adverse reaction has not thoroughly been measured. As a result, medical professionals around the world have expressed concern about whether or not this experimental vaccine is even safe for the general population. Several manufacturers skipped animal testing and went straight to human trials, bypassing an important part of the safety process. This is an experimental vaccine that has an emergency use authorization only. It has not been approved by the FDA. COVID-19 vaccines use experimental technology. Pfizer and Moderna experimental vaccines use mRNA technology, which has never been used before in humans. Concerns about this new technology include genetic interference, infertility, and autoimmune reactions. And the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers are exempt from liability. Data released April 16th from the CDC and prevention on the numbers of injuries and deaths reported to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, or VAERS.HHS.gov, following COVID vaccines confirmed that numbers are still rising. The data released showed 68,347 reports of adverse events following COVID vaccines, including 2,602 deaths, an increase of 260 from last week, 8,285 serious injuries, up 314 between last week. These numbers are for December 14th, 2020 to April 8th, 2021. The VAERS data released today showed 795 reports related to blood clotting disorders, with 400 attributed to Pfizer, 337 to Moderna, and 56 to Johnson & Johnson. One of the recent adverse reactions reports.
Thank you, Nancy. Your time is up.
Yep.
The next speaker is Misty Flowers. Go ahead, please. You have 3 minutes. Please state your full name for the record. And Misty, if I understand correctly, you may have multiple speakers on your line. Just let me know.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi there. I just have one other speaker besides me.
Okay, they can go right after you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Misty Flowers, and I am with Be Brave Washington. I'm calling tonight to urge Whatcom County to end emergency orders immediately and reopen Whatcom County fully. I've been calling and emailing regarding the emergency orders. There's multiple reasons that it needs to be ended, but particularly because of the data is showing that there is no reason for us to remain closed. And I wanted to remind you all of a letter that was sent by Barry Buchanan back in February 2nd, 2021 to our Governor Inslee. In this letter, he explains how counties with far higher case rates are being granted the ability to reopen while our North region averages are much lower and the businesses continue to suffer from the lockdown. And it is completely unfair and unequitable that we are remaining closed down while King County is reopening. And there is no margin of error for smaller counties. A single case increase could sink the entire region for weeks, which we are seeing happen. And we are paying attention to the data, and I hope that you are too, that Whatcom County has very, very low case numbers in the hospital. As of last week, there was 1 patient in the COVID unit. And in 2020, 28 patients at St. Joseph's Hospital died with COVID. And it's extremely concerning that you guys are continuing to allow the emergency orders with the vaccine rollout and the PCR testing that are only authorized under emergency use only. And it is becoming fairly obvious that there is fraud going on between the emergency orders and the health department and these pharmaceutical rollouts. So I would please urge you to end the emergency orders now and reopen Whatcom County today. Thank you for your time.
Misty, if you would like to allow the second speaker on your line to speak, and please have that person state their name, and we'll start the timer for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barbara Powers, and I'm with Be Brave Washington, and I urge you to reopen Whatcom County now. I moved to Whatcom County in January 2020. After planning and saving for retirement, I plan to buy a home in Whatcom County, enjoy my well-earned retirement, and contribute to the community and the local economy. Over the past year, I've watched Whatcom County, particularly Bellingham, degenerate from the once beautiful community I fell in love with into a modern day version of Pottersville from the classic film, It's a Wonderful Life. Local businesses shuttered, schools closed, all cultural events that bind a community together are curtailed. Homelessness, poverty, drug abuse, and despair are rampant. Instead of welcoming smiles, we allow businesses to enforce illegal face requirements. Face masks have now been scientifically proven to be completely useless against a virus, and in fact are harmful to our health and the health of our children. The specter of constitutionally illegal vaccine passports has reared its fascist head. The change that has taken place in Whatcom County is shocking. The pandemic is over. In reviewing statistics from county websites, hospitalizations for COVID have been on our well below the requirements to open our community completely. Peace Health Hospital is so empty, nurses are told to cold call patients to try to drum up business. What is going on here? It's within your power to invoke the changes we need to get back to reality, the thriving, beautiful community that Whatcom County once was. Several of my friends have moved away. Places such as Texas, Florida, and Idaho have completely opened up, and they have the lowest rates of COVID in the country. They are receiving these folks who are eager to enjoy a wonderful life there. And if I don't soon see positive changes here, I'll be taking my money, my support, and following them. Thank you for listening.
If anyone would like to speak during open session, if anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon on your screen or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. The next speaker is Natalie Chavez. Go ahead, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Could you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Natalie Chavez, and I've lived in Bellingham for approximately 16 years. I want to speak tonight regarding SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 novel coronavirus. I'm hoping that you all are beginning to ask or continuing to ask the Whatcom County Health Department critical questions regarding COVID-related Whatcom County statistics, data, effective COVID treatments, and regarding the COVID tests. COVID PCR tests, which are molecular tests that detect genetic material of a virus using a laboratory technique called polymerase chain reaction, PCR, which is why these COVID tests are also called PCR tests. These COVID PCR tests are tests that have been used here in Whatcom County for months now. Kerry Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test, although now deceased, prior to his death, he stated in a recorded interview that the PCR test was never meant to be a diagnostic test for infections. Kerry said that anyone can test positive for practically anything with a PCR test if you run it long enough or with a high cycle threshold. So why are COVID PCR tests continuing to be used here in Whatcom County when these PCR tests cannot tell us whether or not a person is sick and when these tests do not diagnose infections? Why are COVID PCR tests being used in Whatcom County to test healthy, asymptomatic individuals to diagnose viral infections when these PCR tests were never meant to be a diagnostic test for infections in the first place? According to the CDC, it is extremely difficult to detect any live virus using a PCR test in a sample above a 33 cycle threshold. Dr. Fauci also expressed concern with the cycle threshold used in COVID PCR tests. He said that the chance of the PCR test being accurate at a 35 cycle threshold or higher is minuscule. And according to a laboratory worker at Northwest Laboratories in Bellingham, we now know that the TaqPath COVID-19 test manufactured by Thermo Fisher Scientific is being run at a 37 cycle threshold, and that was as of March 2021. In November 2020, in a landmark case in Portugal, there was a ruling that the COVID PCR test was used worldwide to diagnose COVID-19 was not fit for purpose. The Portuguese judges ruled that a single positive PCR test could not be used as an effective test to diagnose the COVID infection. And in a statement released in December 2020, the World Health Organization finally acknowledged what thousands of doctors and medical professionals worldwide have been saying for months, that the PCR test used to diagnose COVID-19 is a hit and miss process with way too many false positives. In an advisory to laboratory workers issued on January 13, 2021, the World Health Organization recommends a second test to confirm any positive COVID diagnosis for people who showed no symptoms of COVID-19. Quote, where test results do not correspond with clinical presentation, the new specimen should be taken, unquote. The World Health Organization warns that most PCR tests, quote, are indicated as an aid for diagnosis, unquote. And that is a very important distinction from what has been actually going on in Whatcom County. And in closing, the COVID PCR tests and their many false positives lead to significant exaggerations and false alarms and have caused a lot of damage to our community at every level, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Thank you.
If anyone else would like to speak during open session, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon on your screen, or if you're joining by phone, dial *9. The next speaker is listed as E. Go ahead, please, and state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Eves Mason Marcus. I've lived in Bellingham for 13 years and I am a music teacher. Today, after grabbing some groceries, I was leaving the parking lot of the co-op and I saw one of my students with a sign that said, "Grateful for anything you can give me." And it broke my heart. I feel like we aren't doing enough for our neighbors that are unhoused, for our neighbors who don't have stable housing, who have suffered financially in the pandemic and beyond that. I feel like we didn't do enough this last winter. As Marcus stated previously, someone passed away today on C Street. As the Whatcom County Health Board, I hope there are plans that are underway in terms of what we're going to do when it gets hotter outside, when it gets smokier outside. There have already been over 90 wildfires in Washington and it's April. We're looking at a hot summer and not enough water. And I'm hoping that there are discussions happening behind closed doors about how to help our friends and neighbors who don't have the resources that a lot of Bellingham and Whatcom County do. And I hope that those conversations happen in public spaces and with the community. I think we all saw a lot of people step up and show up and help folks in a way that our community hasn't done before. And there are more people who are willing to step up and work together and care for each other. But we also need your help as our elected officials. And before you know it, winter's going to be here again. And what are our solutions there? Base camp is not an option. Everyone keeps saying it. Not everyone can go there. Like, we have collectively the resources and the wherewithal and the brainstorming power to come up with actual solutions. And I don't want the conversation to go away. I want us to start thinking now about what we're doing in September, in October, November. Like, they feel far away, but they're just going to come right up soon. And we're going to have a hot summer and we need bathroom accessibility. We need shower accessibility. We need water. We need things to be open for our entire community, no matter where they come from, no matter what they own, no matter what resources they have. I'm also dealing with a friend who has a traumatic brain injury, who needs shoulder surgery, who needs a hip replacement. And how is he supposed to get any of those resources when he doesn't have a safe place to sleep in at night, when he doesn't have the resources for pre-op and post-op? There are so many issues that we still need to be talking about. Just because Camp 210 is gone doesn't mean we can't have these conversations. And I expect you all, as our elected leaders, to work together and find solutions. Thank you.
If anyone else would like to speak during open session, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. We'll just give it another minute for others to raise their hands. We'll go to the caller beginning in 360, ending in 717. Go ahead, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Sonia Pisker. I'm calling in to comment and urge you guys as the city council to please stop the sweeps. We are being traumatized here in the community. I was just listening to a commenter talking about it's a wonderful life and how she wants her life to be that way, but I'm listening to it, and as a refugee who lives here in Bellingham, my life's never been like that. I identify with life is beautiful, you know, where like you don't get a nice bucket of things to live with and you just have to make the best of it. And I just feel like you guys are not aware of how many people in the community have that kind of upbringing and how hard we try to live here. And you're not making it any easier for any of us to live here, especially not people who have been resilient and have come up and have, you know, brought themselves up by their bootstraps or whatever you want to call it. back to the sweeps. They're really, 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 really traumatic for people, for the homeless community, for volunteers, for service providers, for neighbors, for just friends of mine who don't volunteer, who watch me do this work. You guys got to stop it. You know, you announce a sweep on a Tuesday, and we know the cops are going to come in on a Wednesday. What does that do to people? You know, why the psychological trauma? Why the psychological warfare? Is that really what you guys intend to do? Because that is what's happening under your watch, and you should be aware of it, and it needs to be brought up, and you need to be held accountable for it. Like, stop it. Please stop terrorizing us. You got to stop it. I yield my time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Melissa Weisner. Go ahead, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Melissa Greg, legally soon to be Weisner again. And I'm the Executive Director of Outreach, Serenity Outreach Services, SOS Bellingham. You've heard from some of our awesome volunteers and some of our board members tonight. And so I just wanted to hop on and reiterate, these sweeps are killing everyone. Downtown is a mess. I work downtown. I have worked downtown for 20 years, and homelessness downtown has been a epic and constant problem for 20 years. When I was 19, I used to have to carry a knife in my boot to walk safely from the tattoo shop where I worked to my car. When I was pregnant, I had to have escorts. This is not new. It's back the way it was. They're all down there now. They're disrupting the commerce downtown when we're just trying to get back up and running. The onus of chasing these people around constantly falls onto the public, the minimum wage workers downtown and the small business owners that have to constantly deal with the people downtown and the issues and them coming into their shop for things when they really should be getting outreach instead and have a place where they can be, where they can receive services. This is getting ridiculous. This is so traumatic. We have no time to do anything. And I get it, that's the point, but we're not going to give up. We care, and this community cares, and we're showing that over and over again. And so you can keep doing this, but it's just getting worse. You're just exacerbating the problem, and you're flushing our tax dollars down the toilet. We could have housed these people 4 times over with sweep money just from half of the sweeps. This is going on 8, 9 sweeps now, and you're installing a slide instead of providing services for people during a housing crisis. Are you kidding me? No money for housing or services, but you're putting a slide in at Maritime Heritage Park. That is ridiculous. Anyway, let's maybe pull our heads out and do a job together and fix this problem. Thanks. You guys have a great night. I yield the rest of my time.
If anyone else would like to speak during open session, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9 if you're joining by phone. I see a hand raised by Tom Doran, but you've already spoken and speakers only get 1 opportunity. I'll go ahead and unmute you, and if you have someone else on your line who would like to speak, that would be permitted. Tom, is there someone else who wants to speak using your line to the meeting?
Oh, sorry. I have another person here, but she doesn't want to speak. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
for having us.
If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand virtually by clicking the hand icon or dialing *9. There are no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to the public for coming out. We will close the open public session and turn it over to Mr. Brown for the consent agenda from the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chair, would you allow me to make a comment unrelated to finance?
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Yeah. While we've had some speakers here talk about the homeless issue, I'd just like to point out that one of the things is I find disappointing is I think people are unaware or are being misinformed by the significant number of programs that this community has put up for homeless individuals over the last several decades. I think the count is something like 30 different programs. And I think the total budget we spend is well north of $20 million annually. So I would encourage people to become familiar with the programs that we are doing and the tremendous effort on the part of partners like the Opportunity Council, the Mission, and the Health Department itself. So thank you for that opportunity. With that, I will move into the Council Finance and Administrative Services Committee meeting. The committee met today and we considered several items. The first one was AB 2021-206, an ordinance closing the Law Library Elections Remodel Fund 376. This received a vote of 3-0. And I
Councilmember Brown?
Yep.
You're out of order. The consent agenda goes first.
Well, if I didn't have you, Mr. Buchanan, helping me, I'd continue to make mistakes. So thank you. First item up was the consent agenda. There were 3 items in the consent agenda. These all received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have that motion. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Donovan,
Yes.
Van Ellenbus,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes,
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
that passes 6-1.
Now back to my earlier comment, which was AB 2021-206, an ordinance closing the Law Library Elections Remodel Fund 376. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, discussion on this motion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Van Ellenbus,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it and I didn't get my hand up in time. So I'm just going to abstain because I didn't hear what it was that we were voting on.
Oh, we can restate it for you, Ben. That's not a problem.
Okay, go ahead.
We were going to increase your salary, Ben, but sorry.
Yeah, that's shot now.
I'm not sure I'd vote for that either.
AB 2021-206, an ordinance closing the Law Library Elections Remodel Fund 376. This received a vote 3-0, and I so move.
So discussion on that motion. Okay, now please call the roll.
Van Ellenbus,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Next item up was AB 2021-207, ordinance closing the East Whatcom Regional Resource Center Construction Fund 334. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Discussion. Okay, please call the roll.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Van Ellenbus,
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Next item up was AB 2021-215, ordinance amending the 2021 Whatcom County budget, request number 6 in the amount of $583,944. This received a vote of 2-1 with 1 member opposed, and I so move for approval.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have discussion on this motion? Councilmember Byrd.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. So I was the one vote against this in Finance Committee, and the reason I voted against it then, and same as the reason I'll vote against it tonight. So there's specifically two items within this bundle of appropriations that I don't want to approve. And so I won't be approving any of them. But the two items are going to be the $255,950 that will be funding for the isolation and quarantine facilities. I've talked to this to probably Todd's nauseum here in the last year. But again, I mean, we have a handful of people in that entire facility, and now that we have 50% of the people vaccinated in the county that are on our priority list, it seems like more than ever those extra rooms we could be using for something else. Versus paying for and letting them sit empty. The second one is going to be the paramedic training class carryover. I spoke about this 2 weeks ago. We're paying almost $200,000 all in for paramedics or to go through that program, and yet comparable programs in other counties are $15,000. So I just can't fund these things where we're not, in my opinion, spending the money wisely. So.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Okay, let's take the vote.
Kathy Kirschner,
No.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
No.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
That passes 4-3.
Next item up is AB 2021-223. Request authorization for the county executive to enter into an interlocal agreement amendment between Whatcom County and the Washington State Department of Health to fund various public services in the amount of $2,928,061 for a total amended contract amount of $15,145,319. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Discussion. Please call the roll.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Thank you. It passes 7-0.
Next item up is AB 2021-225, request authorization for the county executive to enter into an interlocal agreement, amendment number 1 to interlocal funding agreement with the city of Bellingham for the support of the U.S. Geological Survey's development of the coastal storm modeling system Cosmos across the Whatcom County shoreline. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Discussion on this motion. Okay, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Oh, I'm torn because I don't know if there's any models that are worth the money, but we'll give this one a try. Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Next item up is AB 2021-231, request authorization for the county executive to enter into a local agency agreement and project prospectus between Whatcom County and the Washington State Department of Transportation for Marine Drive, Locust Avenue to Alderwood Avenue, reconstruction and bicycle pedestrian improvement in the amount of $2,509,695. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, discussion on this motion. Councilmember Kirschner.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm correct. It looks like this is funded through some grant money that we're getting in to fix this bicycle path over Marine Drive. Is that right? Looks like John might be here.
Yeah, Mr. Hutchings, can you answer that?
I certainly can, and that is exactly what this is. This is the agreement to be able to finance this with state dollars, or actually federal pass-through dollars.
I just wanted to say that I want to compliment our Public Works Department and our Public Works Director, John Hutchins, because many projects that we get to the approval stage come with a substantial amount of grant funding that helps offset the cost. And I just think you do a great job. So I'm happily going to support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Kirschner. And, it's the whole department that makes this happen. So we really appreciate that. And I'll pass that on.
Yeah, John, you're good at finding the money.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes. That passes 7-0.
Next item up is AB 2021-239, request approval for the county executive to enter into an interagency agreement with Western Washington University to support the coordination of climate change planning efforts funded through a Washington Department of Commerce grant in the amount of $20,000. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, discussion. Okay, please call the roll.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes,
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
that passes 6-1.
Next item up is AB 2021-246, request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract between Whatcom County and Chuckanut Health Foundation to create recommendations on the establishment of a countywide racial equity commission in the amount of $90,000. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, comments on this motion? Councilmember Kirschner.
Where is the funding for this coming from? Is this coming from Executive Sadoo's Racial Equity Commission, $300,000?
Can someone from the administration answer?
Yes, it was approved in the budget, and it is coming from that budget. And it's only $45,000 for the county, and $45,000 is from the city of Bellingham. Yes, it is from the approved budget.
Councilmember Ellenboss? Okay, did you take your hand down, Ben?
Oh, I'm sorry, Barry. I thought I unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. So I have a lot of strife in my heart on this subject because I think it's such an important subject that it shouldn't turn into politics as usual. And so I'm willing to support with tax dollars this type of deep dive, as long as it's not going to be, I believe that Black Lives Matter, and I think that I would like to think that everybody believes that Black Lives Matter, but sometimes it seems that some people only believe that Black Lives Matter if those Black lives adhere to their political ideology, and that not all Black lives matter, or that we should stop Asian hate, but only stop Asian hate if it is feeding your political narrative. And so as long as this commission is going to be using these dollars
to look deeper than just the color of people's skin, I'm willing to support it. But if it's just going to continue to be politics as usual, driving narratives or stories that are pre-existing, then I don't know if we're going to solve any issues.
Councilmember Donovan. Unmute.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I did not intend to follow Mr. Allenboss's comments there, and I won't. But I want to point out that the funding is coming out of the county budget and the city budget, but the Chuck Nutt Health Foundation is putting substantial investment into this as well to facilitate it. So it is a public-private partnership. It's a great opportunity, and I fully support it.
So I'm going to go ahead and speak to some of Mr. Allenboss's concerns. Having sat on the work group now since around September, October, that's been working on this so far, the process that's being designed, the public process and the community-led process, we have really talked about some of those same concerns that you expressed, Mr. Allenboss, and that is screaming into a vacuum or an echo chamber. And we agree, everyone that's involved in this agrees that we have to get out to the full community and not be politics as usual. I totally agree with you. And the leadership that's being provided for this project is aware of that concept and doesn't want to go down that road. So I can assure you that has been thought of. Mr. Allenboss?
Yeah, I've sat in on a few meetings with folks that were heavily involved with creating this situation, and some of them I feel I'm right in line with, and some of them give me great concern when they can't even utter certain words out of their mouths in regards to a lot of the topics that you deal with as far as equity is concerned. And so that gives me concern. I'm not going to name any names, but I hate to bring up, it's so cliche, like, well, I saw somebody post on social media, but I think it is a way that we communicate these days. And I've seen social media posts from people who have been quoted as putting this situation together that don't scream love and unity to me, and that gives me great concern.
Other Councilmember Frazee.
Yes, I just want to say I'm excited that this is finally coming forward and coming into a real commission, and I really appreciate Christina, Michelle, and Sue bringing this forward, and it's going to happen. So I think the conversations, like Ben was saying, I think there's going to be great conversations, and looking at real statistics and changes that need to be made, and bringing the whole community together and get everyone's voices, I think is important. So I look forward to hearing more.
Councilmember Kirschner.
I'm just looking at the contract and reading through the deliverables. Executives to do, is this money going to just establish the commission, or do we expect to get some deliverables from the commission as a result of this money? Is my question clear? I guess I'm wondering, is community, or Chuck Nutt Health Foundation, is this contract for them to work with the community to establish the commission, and then we will be looking at a commission that's going to want more funding to do their work? Or is this money going to establish the commission and then also provide deliverables? What do we get? I guess, what are we getting for the money?
Well, let me try to answer this. Yes, you're right in both ways, that this is the starting of how the commission should be formed, and to organize the community meetings countywide, as well as what are the research to see what other communities have done, which are comparable to us and which are related to our issues. Our issues of Whatcom County are not same that which are in Alabama or in, in North Carolina. So we do not want to take a template from some other place and put it in and call it Racial Equity Commission. I think the problems in Whatcom County are unique, and we want to actually it lays out quite extensively with hours and things what to be accomplished. Now, these people will not be the commission itself. They will just form the basic ideas and define what the commission should be doing. But when the commission is formed, they will, and that will come to the county council when we format the end result of this process would be a charter for that commission, for lack of any things, right? And that's what this will form, that charter, and it will come to the county council and come to the city council, and with the blessings of both the councils, as well as we are going to reach out to each of the small cities as well. And with blessings from everybody, we will do that. Now, initially, if we wanted to do this with all cities signing on this interlocal agreement, that would take a long time. And we thought that City of Bellingham and county could drive this process as a initial, but there is a provision in this interlocal that any city can join at any moment of time as they see this thing. So the idea would be to engage not only the citizens or different communities, but the different governments as well. So that is what we are going to get. The deliverable is format of the commission.
So it looks like we're getting a formalized commission by sometime in December this year.
Yes.
You read through the schedule and the statement of work.
Yes.
And do we have any input into what the scope of this commission will look like?
Not as a council, that you will get that opportunity when the work is complete, but as an individual citizen, you are welcome anytime. Anybody is welcome actually to come and participate or listen or engage in different outreach meetings. Yes.
I'm kind of feeling like I want to support this, but at the same time, I'm a little bit leery of what this commission could ultimately end up looking like and proposing. Based on some of the things that I'm hearing around the country that seem very, really not anywhere near Whatcom County's level. And I do know two of the people that have, or at least one of the people that is working with Chuckanut. And I have not been impressed, as Councilmember Ellenboss says, with some of the things that I've read about her viewpoints and standards on Facebook. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to support this in this form from these people. So I just put that out there.
Councilmember Byrd.
Thanks, Barry. Except all for clarity, the document is for Chuckanut to essentially build or to research, identify, and build a model that they would bring back and propose to us, at which point the council would get all of that information back, have a chance to review it all, tweak it, change anything potentially we wanted, and then we would be approving it to create the council or the commission. Is that correct?
Yes, but it will not be only the county council and the city as well.
Right.
And other cities, possibly other cities as well.
So trying to address Councilmember Kirchner's concerns. I think Councilmember Kirchner, if I'm hearing you correctly or understanding what your concern is, it sounds like to me part of your concern is that this would be allowing them to actually go out there and establish everything, and that they would be creating it, and that we wouldn't have that input and oversight or information. It would just be happening once we approve this. The approval of this is essentially approval of the commission creation and stuff. Did I hear that right? Or
am I still unmuted? Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I will just say that the past events over the last year have not made me warm and fuzzy to opening up this kind of a group that's going to come back and bring recommendations to the council, the city council, and possibly other city councils. I just feel like it doesn't have enough. It doesn't have enough sideboards on it, and the things that I've seen come from specifically one of the two people that spearheaded this on Facebook don't leave me with a warm fuzzy about approving $90,000 to go off and form this. And so I guess what I'm saying is I don't have enough trust in this process, and I don't have enough trust in our current government structures to be able to take what may be recommended and do the right thing, basically.
I hear you.
So
actually, sorry, Sepal, but Kathy, let me ask you this. I know where you're coming from, and I share a lot of that, and I know you know that, and I know where Ben's coming from, and I share some of his sentiment and resignation as well, because I feel strongly about that as well. I don't know what the social media post is that you're referring to. I haven't seen it, and I don't want to go on Facebook to find it either.
It's not there anymore. You can't find it because it was taken down, I'm sure preemptively.
Yeah. There. What I
Probably
would
a
say
good
though,
idea.
I know one of the people at Chugga Foundation that's over there in leadership, and will be working on this and is working on it. Yeah, and I have a lot of trust and faith in her and the leadership that she's shown.
I do too.
Years. And I think that she's done a tremendous job of being open-minded and listening to everyone and actively engaging people who aren't just in the echo chamber. And in talking to her, I really believe that that's going to be the process here as well. And I don't necessarily want to shut something down based on it being afraid of what might come out of it. I feel like, if anything, the Cherry Point group is really showing us when you can bring people who are afraid together and actually get them in a room and get them collaborating, you can have great things come out of that. And I think this is an opportunity to see that same model be used. And if we can get people even like this that maybe are sharing less than fortunate messages on Facebook in a room that we disagree with, but they have that feeling for a reason, they should still be heard. It's just about rounding that out and making sure that everyone's heard, right? And so if we get everyone else in the room too, then that's a key group that we can have great things happen from. It's just having that diversity. That's how I feel like. So that's why I'll be supporting it tonight.
I normally feel the same way, and I normally would support this for those very same reasons. And I do absolutely respect Heather Flaherty, who is the executive director of the TriConnect Health Foundation. And I'm not at all talking about Heather. And I want to make that clear that I think she's done great work and will be continuing to do great work. And I imagine that this is going to pass. I just think that, well, okay, I can go with the stakeholder work group concept, Councilmember Byrd, and I can see where bringing all the voices into the discussion is very important, and working out differences is definitely a possibility here. I guess I'm just concerned about, The other part of this that really kind of bothers me is that we still don't really have a clear definition or understanding of what exactly racial equity issues are in Whatcom County. We kind of touched on it when we passed the resolution last fall. I hope that this group can really source that out and not just make assumptions about what could be racial equity issues in this county based on what they heard from the national news or someplace else. Because I really, if this is going to happen and work, it has to be like Executive Sadhu said, Whatcom County centered. So I guess I can support it. Thank you. You talked me into it.
Well said. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to me, the rest of the council.
So if I remember right, we had Council Member Brown and then Council Member Donovan and then Executive Sadhu and now Mr. Ellenboss. So Council Member Brown.
Ms. Kirschner, I appreciate your comments. I think the bottom line is we won't address the problem unless we give the opportunity for all voices to be heard. So that's why I'm really very supportive of this.
Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, I again, I'm very excited about this being set up, and I think we're setting up a institutional structure with, I hope, has some autonomy from the council, and can bring voices in that aren't generally typically heard, but also it's a structure autonomous from what people post on Facebook, and that I don't think we should worry about that. And I don't know what the references to Facebook are, but I just think this is well above and beyond that.
Executive Sadhu?
Yeah, I was going to say that what Mr. Bird has said is right. There are diversity of voices and there are diversity of experiences right in Whatcom County. I think that people may not see that at times. And, you know, there are people with lived experience. Like when we talk about, hearing stories from other states and bringing it in, yes, that's what the media covers, and that does influence people. But when there are personal experiences from people of this kind of incidents in our county, and in recent, means last 10, 20 years, we cannot avoid that, to listen to that, or give credence to, or allow them opportunity to share that. Now, some people are more exuberant than the others. We all put stupid Facebook posts all the time in the motion of that time. Maybe they were not true. But taking that one person in a group of 12, 13 people, like Mr. Buchanan is part of that, Mayor Fleetwood is part of that, I'm part of that, county prosecutor is part of that. Of course, Heather's name is there. I mean, this is all public, people who are participants in this and who are shepherding this whole thing. So I think we have to give them a little bit space and develop the product. And one of the things I just want to share with you today, that in one of the early meetings, I had these very enthusiastic young people talking about it. I said, how many people have you talked to? And this was a few months back. They said, oh, we have talked to 250 people. I said, how many people agreed with you? Satpal, everybody agreed with me. I said, that's exactly what your problem is. You are talking to the people who already agree with you. That's not what the commission is for. The commission is going to be for the people who do not agree with you. I have a written response from an elected official in our county recent, that Satpal, you are looking for a solution where there is no problem. The people still hold that view. And I know, I normally don't talk about myself, but I will share with you, because since this is a appropriate occasion, that my son was 6 years old and I moved here outside of Linden, and me and my son went for a haircut in Linden, and we were walked out of the shop. My son kept asking me, Dad, what happened? Why this person is not cutting over my hair? I said, son, let's just go. We'll go to another place. These things happen. They happen even today. They may not be as much as what we see in the media and everything, but these things are real. And this commission is not going to do any work by putting things on a piece of paper or changing a code. Will not make any difference until we change people's hearts. That's what my message has been to the whole group. If you want to work hard and change people's hearts, then this kind of organization can do something good for our community. If you want to just say, hey, we made a piece of paper, how beautiful this our charter is, of the commission is, it doesn't make any difference. How good an essay you write for your, this is not an essay, I told them, this is not an essay you're writing for your graduation class. You can write the best essay. If you do not follow what you are writing, it's worthless. You may get your diploma, but it's worthless. And that holds true. We have to change people's minds. And this is an attempt to do that. At least that's what I would strive for, as long as I'm part of this formation of this commission. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Ellenboss.
Yeah, I really like what Satpal said, not just right there, but when he spoke earlier about looking at our area and not just grabbing the flavor of the month off the news networks. And that's what makes me want to lean towards doing something like this. But I think when we stereotype a racist, we think about a white person who hates somebody because they have a different color of skin, say a black person, just because of the color of their skin. Well, you could also have a racist that's hates a white person only because they're white. And I just want to make sure that the foundation of this commission, and as it moves forward, is there for the purity of loving their neighbor and wanting true equality of opportunity for everyone in Whatcom County, and not because they hate someone for the color of their skin. So I'm willing to vote for this, but I really hope we put a diverse group of people together. And I've talked about, when we're looking at climate change and climate science, that we're looking at real science and not political science. I hope that we can look at statistics and outcomes here in Whatcom County and not the political narrative or politically driven statistics. And there's things that have become taboo to speak about because it goes against political party movements for the last 30 years. But when you really delve into some of the true statistics, if we could actually talk about some of those things that are now not politically correct, say family structures, we could really solve some issues. So I hope that when we put this group together, that they're holistic and that they're willing to actually have tough conversations that delve into things that aren't just the flavor of the month.
Okay, with that, are we ready to vote? Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, first off, Mrs. Sadu, I'm sorry for your experience, and I just wanted to, you know, I've seen several experiences of persons of color in this community who've you know, just been questioned or challenged or diminished is probably the word I'm looking for. One of my son's best friends is an African American kid who was born in Seattle, who lived up in Edgemore, and he's walking home one day, and a neighbor calls the police on him because he's a black kid walking in Edgemore. He's got a right to be there. He lives there. And it's not just limited to, I mean, the prejudice, the go-to act of trying to diminish someone is not just limited to color. This council everybody on this council was at a hearing one day where I was challenged for for advocating for a business position regarded to apprenticeship. And if you remember correctly, the statement from a prominent white businessman in this community was that I didn't have the right to be telling an American businessman what to do. Right. And one event which I've never disclosed in public before, I went back in the days prior to Nexus when we had the PACE program. I went up to the PACE counter up at the border, and I'd left my green card in the car. And the officer at the time started screaming at me so loudly that he was spitting in my face. And he said, the only bleeping reason I don't kick you out of the country is there's not a bleeping thing I can do to stop you coming back in again. And it was just it was a completely unnecessary, uncalled for. And it's an example that the sort of desire to diminish and attack someone because they're different is so widespread and pervasive. And any racial equity commission, any other commission that gives us better visibility to this is useful to us because for most people, you just don't see it. And if it gives visibility, all the more for it. I'll shut up.
Further comments? Councilmember Kirschner.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Rudd and Satpal, those experiences. And I'll say I'm sorry that both of you had those experiences. I think that, you know, we almost could lose the racial part of this and call it the Equity Commission, because in different ways, I think all of us have had experiences where we've been judged about something that wasn't entirely accurate about who we are as people, and made to feel less than whole and made to feel less than welcome. So I do appreciate both of you sharing those experiences. Just want to thank you.
Councilmember Donovan, then Frazee.
I will just submit I am white. It's a lot easier to go through life being white. And there's a reason it's a racial equity commission, not an equity commission.
Councilmember Frazee.
An executive to
Led by a white man for sure, Councilmember Donovan.
Executive Sadu, I know you've had many more experiences. I know I've heard of at least one, and maybe it's not mine to share, but even as we've all run for office, and even running for office, I know, just being a person of color, I know Executive Sadu had a gun pointed at him I know another person of color who was running for office who had bullets put in her mailbox. So even there's a lot of stuff in Whatcom County happening that we don't see, and people aren't making it public. And now they're able to talk about it, and that is what's going to help us see things in the light and make changes. Like I said, I'm sure Paul could give us a lot more examples, but he's not going to sit here all day. I think, yeah, this commission will bring out a lot of things that are happening and allow people to have a voice, and then we can make the changes that we need to make.
Anything else? Okay, let's vote.
Ben Ellenboss, Ben Ellenboss,
Yeah, let's explore this a little further.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes, and thank you, Ben and Kathy, for supporting this.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Thank you all. That passes unanimously.
Next item up is AB 2021-247, request authorization for the county executive to enter into an interlocal agreement with the city of Bellingham to support, develop, and fund a process to create recommendations on the establishment of a county-wide racial equity commission in the amount not to exceed $45,000. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, please call the roll.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
And that passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, there was nothing further from finance.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, we'll go to from the committee of the whole from this afternoon. It was AB 2021-209, a resolution regarding permanent affordability of childcare in Whatcom County. We have a revised letter that you should have received in your email inbox before the meeting tonight with those revisions that we talked about during our committee meeting this afternoon. So we voted this afternoon to approve that letter as amended, and I so move. That one needs a second.
Brown seconds.
Thank you.
What letter again? Sorry.
It's in your email box. Should have arrived sometime after 4, I think. Councilmember Donovan.
So we're just approving the committee recommendation about the letter. We're not actually acting on the resolution yet.
That's my understanding, that we're going to get input back from the folks that are receiving the letter, and that'll help us guide our decision on the resolution. Is that correct, Carol?
That's what I thought came out of committee.
Yes. Yes.
Other discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
And that passes 7-0. We have some items that were added by revision. The first one is receipt of an application for the Business and Commerce Advisory Committee for Higher Education. The vacancy in that category, the applicants are Eva Schulte or Schute. And anyway, applications. Never mind. Anyway, it's I would entertain a motion to appoint Eva.
Move to appoint.
Actually, receipt of the application. I'm sorry.
So this would actually just be for introduction. It'll be on the agenda in 2 weeks for action.
Oh, okay. So this is introduction of the receipt of the application.
Correct.
Okay. So do we have a motion to introduce this?
I move to introduce.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to introduce this. Do we have any further discussion on it? Councilmember Kirschner.
Yeah, have we ever introduced an application for one of our seats before? I don't recall that.
We always do that to give other folks in the community a chance to apply for a position. So we always put them on for introduction.
Okay, I guess I've missed that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that too. That's why I stumbled over it. So. Okay, so anyway, we have that motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Dang it. Just going.
You didn't
Are
want
you
it.
still unmuted? Oops.
Oops. You didn't swear. You said dang it. So.
I keep
Okay,
pushing this button and it's erasing my video when I'm trying to say yes.
Good dang, it was pretty strong for someone from London.
It was. It has some kick to it. Okay, our next item that's added by revision is for introduction. It's AB 2021-227, an ordinance imposing an interim moratorium on the acceptance and processing of applications and permits for new or expanded facilities in the Cherry Point urban growth area, the primary purpose of which would be the shipment of unrefined fossil fuels not to be processed at Cherry Point. Do I have a motion to introduce?
Move to introduce.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to introduce. Discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
No.
Red Brown,
Yes.
That passes 5-2. Now we go to regular introduction items. We have 3 items. Do I have a motion to introduce?
Move to introduce.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on these items? Nothing that we want to move to committee?
Mr. Bird's got his hand
Councilmember
up.
Bird?
Nope, you beat me, Barry. I was going to say the same thing. Just as a reminder, good chance any of these that we want to put into a specific committee or direct the committee, this would be a good chance to, this is our time to do it.
Yeah, I wrote myself a big note and a Sharpie on the top of this piece of paper, so. Anybody have anything they want to move to committee? Or shall we just introduce? Seeing nobody. Okay, we will, let's take a vote on the introduction items.
Tyler Bird,
Kathy had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy.
I got you a bigger monitor. I'm sending it over to your house so you can see us all.
I did that at the last minute.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that I would like to hear about this ADA transition plan from our Public Works Department, just to more fully understand it. So I'll move that to Public Works and then introduce that evening. Or yeah, I guess that's what I would do.
Okay, do I have a second?
Hey,
Second.
excuse me, this is Dana. So that is actually what happened today. The ADA plan was in committee today.
Oh, it was? Okay.
It was, yes.
I didn't come to that committee apparently. All right, then I withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on these three items to introduce? Okay, please call the roll.
Tyler Bird,
You betcha.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes. That passes unanimously. Now we'll go to committee reports. We had our first committee meeting of the day.
Councilmember Donovan.
Oh, Councilmember Don.
Yeah, I just want, before we get to the first committee, those introduction items for the most part have been in committee. So that my earlier concern was making introduction items that haven't been in committee. So I do appreciate Mr. Bird and everybody and Mr. Buchanan calling out the opportunity to bring those to committee. So, but on to natural resources.
Actually, we're on to committee of the whole, executive session. We had one item, which was AB 2021-251, discussion of pending litigation with civil deputy prosecutor George Roche, who actually Karen Frakes sat in for him today. And it was regarding Anderson as personal rep of the estate of Kirk Powless et al. Versus Whatcom County et al. In the U.S. District Court for Western District of Washington, number 220-CV-01125. And this item was discussed, and I think Mr. Donovan has a motion to read into the record.
I do. Command of executive session. I hereby move to approve defense and indemnification of Chris Freeman and Caleb Erickson named as defendants and Anderson as personal rep of estate of Kirk Powless et al., Whatcom County et al., U.S. District Court for the Western Washington District, Washington, number 2:20-CV-01125. That is my motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Councilmember Byrd seconds. Discussion. Please call the roll on the motion.
Councilmember Donovan, could you please email the clerk and me, please, the motion?
Yeah, we'll do that right now.
Thank you. And I'll call the roll now, starting with Todd Donovan.
I'll email in a second. Yes.
Ben Ellenboss.
My internet cut out and I didn't hear what the most.
Can Councilmember Donovan read that again?
Yeah, it is. Screen's going here. Coming out of on here. Sorry, now my Acrobat thing's not working well here, which I'm not sure why. Adobe is like doing weird stuff for me right now, so I can't actually reread it. So give me a second.
Is this the motion from executive session?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the indemnification.
Okay, I'm up to speed. My vote would be yes.
I think I can't reread it because I'm in the middle of emailing it, but.
So Kathy, did that complete the roll call?
No, I'll keep going. The next is Carol Frazee.
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
That passes unanimously. So on to natural resources.
I'm overtaxing my taxing thing here. Natural resources.
Wait 1 moment. I see a hand up by our esteemed Ms. Frakes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Before we go on, I normally don't get involved with these matters, and I frankly don't pay a lot of attention to your motion and what you put on the record, but I just wanted to make sure. It seems like I remember you putting findings on the record as well. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I think I can add this to the motion. That the record would be that material about acting on behalf of the county and
right. It's in the material. The findings are in the material that you received from my office. It's on the second page, and specifically that the two people were acting in a manner in which the county had an interest. And I don't want to go read through all of them, but isn't that normally the procedure?
Yes, I believe so. Todd, do you have a ability to see it now?
yeah, I'm forced quitting Adobe and coming back to my file here. So just give me a sec.
Does someone else have a copy just in case that they could pull up and read in for us?
I can read it if you want me to.
Yeah, that would work, I think. Very
Okay, why don't I read it?
I would
then?
actually rather have a council member read it
Okay.
if possible, since that is where the motion comes from.
Right.
I'll have to go back to my email because the stuff I had all queued up in Adobe is somehow gone here, as well as natural resources.
Karen, do you want to send it to me and I can pull it up just in case?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay.
Anybody have any good stories?
Meanwhile, I did pull back up the natural resources stuff though.
Chair Buchanan, could you play your guitar, please?
Can't quite reach it. I got a TV tray that had my dinner on it behind me, so.
I got it here. Todd, do you want me to read it? Okay. Do I need to read the motion? I'll just read the whole thing. Motion for approval, or excuse me, motion for April 20th, 2021 executive session, reapproval to defend and indemnify Chris Freeman and Caleb Erickson per WCC 2.56. I hereby move to approve defense and indemnification of Chris Freeman and Caleb Erickson named as defendants in Anderson as personnel rep of the estate of Kirk Powless et al. Versus Whatcom County et al. U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington, number 220-CV-01125.
And then on
And
the
then the
second, on
findings.
the next page are the findings.
The
ABC bit.
do I need to read the paragraph before that? No, I just did. Okay. The council hereby, let's see. The county council met in executive session concerning the lawsuit Anderson as personnel representative of estate of Kirk Powless et al. Versus Whatcom County et al. U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington, number 220-CV-01125, pursuant to Whatcom County Code 2.56. The council hereby finds the following. Chris Freeman and Caleb Erickson were acting in a matter in which the county had an interest. Chris Freeman and Caleb Erickson were acting in the discharge of a duty imposed or authorized by law. Chris Freeman and Caleb Erickson acted in good faith. The officers, officials, agents, or employees will be defended and indemnified pursuant to and consistent with the provisions in WCC Chapter 2.56. The end. And I so move. Or Todd moves and I second.
You move, I second.
Okay, done.
Let's do Tyler moves and Todd seconds. Okay, discussion. Okay, please call a roll.
Kathy Kirschner.
Please call a roll.
Hey, Barry, sorry, I couldn't get my hand up quick enough.
Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, I don't know if this matters or not. I have a cousin named Caleb Erickson. I don't believe he works in the jail, so, but I just wanted to put it out there. My vote on this has nothing to do with whether I am related. I don't think it's the same cousin. I think my cousin Caleb Erickson's like 19 years old.
Councilmember Brown?
I know Caleb Erickson. He's probably 35 to 45, about 6'6", and you do not want to get on the wrong side of him just because of his body weight, which is all muscle, by the way.
It's mostly all heart, actually.
Well, what makes you think my cousin Caleb Erickson isn't 6'6", all muscle and all heart?
Well, I'm just helping you to work out whether it's the same guy. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Wow, this has been a tough agenda item. Any further discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Buchanan, could I just ask, this is basically replacing the prior vote, is that correct?
It's reading the motion in full that I did not complete when my Acrobat froze.
Yeah, Barry, you're muted. But miming is fantastic. Barry.
Let's read, sorry, I wasn't pushing the space bar all the way down. I told you this item's cursed. Let's go ahead and read the roll call back into the record. Start with your first call.
I'm just wondering if we need to reconsider the previous vote and amend it.
So I should withdraw my original motion. Did we start voting on that? And then
No, we did not do that. Dana, what say you on that?
Why don't you just go ahead and reconsider the last vote and then redo this one? Reconsider the vote that was already taken.
I move to reconsider.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, please call the roll on that.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
yes.
Okay, the motion to reconsider has passed. Now, do we need to read that thing back into the record again?
No, you do not. Just the motion as stated by Tyler Bird is the one that the vote will be taken on now.
Awesome. Thank you, Dana. Okay, so discussion, any further discussion on Mr. Bird's motion? Okay, let's vote on that one.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Now we'll move to the
And
natural.
Tyler, I was asked to email that to the clerk, so if you could do that.
Okay, Mr. Donovan, now we can go into natural resources.
Yeah, natural resources had one item on the agenda today. It was a presentation on the Puget Sound Coastal Storm Modeling System, which has an acronym that I think is PSCOM. Cosmos or something. But it was a pretty fascinating planning tool. The presentation was from Eric Grossman and Nicole Fagan. And it looks like a resource that'll really let us learn a lot about coastal planning and what the potential impacts of sea level rise and increased flow coming out of our rivers are going to do for a lot of the flood prone areas of our county. So actually, if anyone wants to go back and watch the recording of that, but it's going to be something to be publicly available. So it was that was the only item in natural resources. And I really want to thank the folks for presenting that.
Yeah, thanks, Councilmember Donovan. That was a fascinating presentation. Just a lot of detail, and it's a pretty amazing model that they presented. Okay, let's move to Public Works and Health.
Yeah, so in Public Works and Health Committee, we had two discussions. Mr. Ranney gave us some information. We had a discussion regarding proposed ordinance offering the closure of a portion of Manley Road to motorized vehicle traffic. And that ordinance was just introduced. Then we had a discussion regarding proposed resolution adopting the Whatcom County Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA transition plan with the public rights of way. And they talked about the public process they used and the input they got, and how that each area of Public Works now has an ADA representative, and how we're moving forward with the prioritizing each part of the plan and how they did that. So making sure they're working on the most used areas that have the most, would make the biggest difference. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. The next committee that met was Committee of the Whole. Our first item was our normal report on COVID-19 from the Health Department. They talked about upcoming vaccination clinics this weekend. They talked about availability of vaccines, and they talked about our caseload. It looks like we are hovering. We go up a little, go down a little, but we're hanging right in there with the parameters that we're expected to keep in phase 3. So she said that Cindy said that we're looking pretty good for that, but she'll keep us abreast of that situation. The other item was the Cherry Point discussion we had today with our stakeholder group. Looks like we have wrapped up most of the issues that the council had questions, and we're sending that off now for a legal review, and Ms. Frakes will keep us advised on how that goes. That was the end of the committees today. We'll move now to other items of business. Is there anything else anyone has? Councilmember Byrd?
Yeah, I saw Ben pop up here on the video earlier. I haven't seen him on the video here recently, but between him and Sat Paul, I'm really starting to get some beard envy. Sorry, Barry, but they just have really darn good looking beards. But okay, seriously, I had a constituent reach out regarding something that I'm not sure necessarily how to address. So it's related to COVID, and essentially they got COVID, and working with the health department, the health department has released over the phone and via email, it sounds like, some personal information that should have been not disclosed based on our HIPAA laws. And so they called fairly unhappy today regarding it. And yeah, so I said I'd bring it up because they wanted it. They asked if it was something the council would address, but really, I'm curious how we would necessarily go about that, or how that might be. Because obviously we wouldn't want to have that kind of conversation in a general meeting, because we don't want to discuss the HIPAA information that got released that they're upset with in the public, or and it's probably an HR issue to some extent or something. Like, is that an executive session issue? Like, but I do think that it should be addressed, because if it's happened to one person, it's probably happened to a number of people at this point.
I don't know who's here that could weigh in on that.
Todd?
I'm just, if this is a medical privacy issue, I don't know if this is the venue to talk about that. I'm not sure.
Well, it is, but I think it's a medical privacy issue as it relates to our policies as the health board and health department, right, in county. So the release of the information is an issue, but ultimately it's whatever the policies were or the training behind that person felt that it was okay to have that conversation with somebody else that wasn't authorized to have the information or send it via email. So they okay, maybe, shoot, I don't know. Good to see I'm not alone.
Or maybe that's a conversation to have with staff and bring back to council about what the parameters are we can talk about.
Okay.
Councilmember Ellenboss?
Yeah, and I'm far from an expert on the subject, but I do think with the declarations that have been made both at a federal, state, and local level, and the way that the RCWs are written in regards to the public health and communicable diseases, I think that there are certain parts of the HIPAA regulations that are, I don't want to say skirted, but I think they're gone around in the name of the good of the public health. Whether I agree with that or not, when I read the laws, that's kind of how I read it. And I don't have the RCW in front of me, but I could probably send it to you, Councilmember Byrd. And I'm sure Dr. Stern would know exactly what I'm talking about. And I can't believe I'm even going there because I really think we've gone overboard with this, but
Maybe it could be something that, as far as process wise and how the information is handled, we could discuss at the next council meeting update on this.
I would suggest working through Dana, and maybe she could check with the health department and legal and find out just what that process would look like. I think that's probably a good spot to start.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I can start there. Part of it, really, like hearing the story and hearing the frustration from the individual, I totally understand. And reflecting back on the last 12 months, and knowing how hard it was to fight to get information for our first responders, so they knew who had it when they were being sent out to a case, and how much we talked about that information. I think it's important that we come back around to it. So I'll talk to Dana about it and the health department, but I do think it's something the council should have a conversation about at some point. So we'll see how that works in.
Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, if there's been you're referring to a breach of personal information, is that it, Mr. Burt?
Yeah, essentially it would be a breach of the HIPAA rules, right?
But it sounds like it was an isolated case, correct?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's happened to this person, then there's at least one person that isn't trained appropriately that's handling the information. And if that's the case, then it's probably happened in other cases. But
so if I may, I mean, this is the way I've handled it, and of course, you're at liberty to do what you wish, but if I've seen something I disagree with at a department level, I brought it to the attention of the department head and to the executive and asked them to deal with it privately, because it usually is easier to bring about change as opposed to making someone defensive. If I think it's an inadvertent issue, if it's a policy issue, then I think it has to come back to the council. But I've historically tried to work through the department head and the executive first. But it just brings a better outcome.
Any other items or council member updates? Mr. Ellenboss?
yeah, so just along the same lines, the COVID lines. You know, and I'm sure I'm in the minority thought process here, but we're all about hearing that. So I've heard on numerous occasions, and I've tried to look into it, but I've heard on numerous occasions that mandates have lower case rates than states that haven't. And I don't want to make any assumptions on that, but I would love for our health department to maybe help interpret some of that data for us. Because as the health board, we're supposed to be looking out for the health of everyone in our district. And if that is the case, I think I would like some insights around that to help inform policy and for us to help inform other policymakers if there is something to that. Is there any way that we can ask the health department to interpret some of that data for us that's out there?
I don't know, maybe Mr. Schroeder or Mr. Sadoo could answer that.
Yeah, Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. I'm sorry, Councilmember Ellenboss, you broke up just a little bit as it relates to the policy question that you had. I mean, it sounded like it was one state versus others and in COVID rates, but could you explain that just a little bit more?
Yeah, and I'm not saying tonight I want to report. I'm just saying that in the future when we get an update, because I've heard it referred to numerous times, not just in our open session tonight, that states that have lifted their mask mandates have not just slightly lower, but substantially lower case rates than states that still have the mask mandates in place. And I would just like to know if that's true or if that's just a talking point. And if it is true, if they have any insights into why that might be.
Okay,
from our
I'll go ahead and send a quick note to Erica and Health Department and have them take a look at it and maybe report back at the next council meeting.
Okay, any other council member updates or other items? Councilmember Kirschner.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to a few things that were said in open session tonight. Just for the record, I'm not aware of any obvious fraud that's being committed by our health department in counting COVID numbers in Whatcom County. I just want to put that on the record. Also, I know people are anxious to fully reopen. We all are. The county council has done everything that we can do to make our wishes known to the governor, who is the authority in the Washington state phased in lockdowns and reopenings. We really can't tell you to open. And if we did and you opened, you would be subject to the state L&I people coming in and shutting your business down. That's why we don't do that. We don't want to put you in worse situation than you already are. But we are advocating for opening in a responsible way when it's our time, when the caseload is low. And we're asking the community to help us do that. And then the third thing I wanted to just say was that the homeless situation, we had a couple of speakers that I want to make sure you know that there's a Bellingham City Council and there's a county council. And I don't want to shift the blame or not take, not shift this, but the folks that are doing the city sweeps are not us. We're not ordering that. I don't think that the city council in Bellingham is ordering it. I think it's a decision that's made with law enforcement and the mayor based on Bellingham city codes. So we're, like Councilmember Brown said, working and have been working for 20 years on homelessness in this community, and we spend millions of dollars on it. We're not ignoring it, and we do care about the plight of people. That's why we meet and discuss and banter and fight and argue and come together and not come together all the time about these issues. So I just want to put that on the public record. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order? All right, folks, everyone have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you later. We are adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.